I'm trying to answer one large question. Will the 2025 US tariffs actually help us or hurt us? To do this, I'm not just going to guess. I'm going to use AI, a combination of probabilities, simulations, and economic data to model what might happen under these new tariffs. Think of it like running 10,000 what-if simulations of the future and seeing how many of them turn out well. Let's see. To build an effective probability model using methods like Monte Carlo, you have to start with a clear definition of the problem and outcome that you're aiming for. This one will be called success. For example, success could be hitting revenue targets or predicting system failures. Then you have to identify key variables driving the outcomes like cost, time, or event frequencies, and then define the ranges and distributions of them. Let's just say like normal, uniform, or exponential based. On historical data or educated guesses, you would probably base these data points on. You'll need to quantify the relationships between these variables, often through equations or rules, like revenue equals price times quantity sold. Then determine the sample size for the simulations. Our method Monte Carlo thrives on creating simulations and situations and scenarios that map probabilities and uses tens of thousands of them to get a clear understanding of the things. The final test is set with constraints like budget limits or time frames to keep the models realistic. That's the foundation of clear success. Variables with distributions, the relationships, and constraints. Here is a list of the data points and variables that are used in this mega simulation. Keep in mind the thousands of data points that are associated with each one of the entries in this list. Only with AI is it possible to gain the effective data points required for this type of simulation. And the best technologies and hardware were used in conjunction with each other to create the simulation. Local and cloud-based processing was also utilized together to crunch these numbers. Our success definition is made into a numeric and quantifiable data, which is the US makes at least $150 billion in tariffs to outweigh the administration costs. The economy doesn't shrink by more than 2%, measured as GDP drop. Manufacturing jobs grow by at least 0.5%. Inflation stays under 1%, and at least 20% of the tariff costs are paid by foreign sellers. So the US companies and consumers aren't hit as hard. Real world economics isn't black and white. There's uncertainty in everything, like in how businesses respond, how global trade shifts, even how people react. That's why we use probabilistic models. They let us account for randomness and unknowns we couldn't foresee. We especially rely on methods such as Monte Carlo method. It's a means that generates thousands of random futures, each based on real data. And they give us a plausible assumption and often show us how successes can occur. And now for the harsh reality. After running each simulation 10,000 times, and we did it twice, this is the data that we came up with. Now, as you can see, both simulations of 10,000 came with the same conclusion, which is a harsh reality. Only 1.2% chance that these tariffs are going to result in successes across the board. Now, there is a silver lining because there may be small successes here and there, but the data predominantly shows overall that these tariffs are not going to work. But the data cannot be denied. We cannot fool ourselves. With such a low probability of success, there is something to this. We need to rethink our tariff policies and rethink the way we make decisions and rely on things that are greater than us in logical deduction. And so, that's it. These tariffs are not good.